Hello guys, I'm André Miceli and this is ACES. I'm with Dan Cockerell. He's principal of Cockerell Consulting and former vice president of Magic Kingdom. Daniel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
I love being in Brazil. We've been here 3 times this year. We're having a great time.
Yeah, cool. So I'd like to start discussing a concept that you brought in your book. You were talking about amazing experiences, and I'd like to hear how companies in Brazil that usually don't have the same strength and investment capabilities as Disney can use this kind of concept to provide amazing experiences to their customers.
Sure. Yeah, the interesting thing about what we talk about when it comes to culture and customer service, you don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to be a big corporation to deliver that. There's 2 things that I've discovered. If you can deliver these 2, you're in great shape. First of all, deliver consistently what people expect you to do. Whether you run a bakery or a supermarket or a hospital, there's basic expectations that clients have or guests have or patients have, and you need to deliver those on a consistent basis. The other thing is deliver an emotional connection. We did lots of research at Disney and discovered people really want above and beyond the basic service. Make me feel special, treat me as an individual, respect me, and be knowledgeable. And if you can deliver that, you can differentiate your business. So I was actually at a workshop last week in Sao Paulo, and we were brainstorming with one of the entrepreneurs there. He owns car washes. So we were brainstorming, how do you make a car wash different, right? And so we started coming up with some ideas, and some of the ideas we had, I've seen there before, put a disco ball inside the car wash and then put some music so people can listen to like disco music while they're in there.
Yeah, cool.
I asked him if people come with dogs. He said, yeah. I said, well, have a little bucket of dog treats. So when the people come up to get their car washed, you can give their dog a treat and while they're going through the car wash. So they're little things that cost nothing or very little money, but they make an emotional connection. They surprise. We like to call them unexpected wows. And if you can do these little things, your clients will remember that forever. It's not always logical, but if you give them the basic service correctly and give them these little emotional connections, these little special things, they're going to remember you, they're going to come back, and they're going to talk about you with others. And that's the formula.
Of course, that process, you will commit errors, and it's important to understand how will you deal with these errors.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of receipt to any kind of things to think and say to Brazilian companies about dealing with errors?
With mistakes, you mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. This is part of the creative process. If you're not trying new things and failing at new things, you're not innovating. Innovation is about making mistakes. Now, it doesn't mean you just do whatever you want. You have to make calculated risks when you make changes in your business. But what I found is at Disney, you can test things on a very small scale, get feedback from your customers, get feedback from your employees, and if it works, you can grow it. And I think what a lot of companies do, they come up with new ideas, they try to roll them out company-wide right away. I love this idea of small tests. You do little tests, and if you get good feedback on it, you start building on them. And that way you can take risks, but not put the financial or the customer service at risk in your business.
Talking about building things, you led more than 12,000 people at Disney.
Yeah.
And how can a manager, an executive do this kind of thing in a hybrid world such we have today?
Yeah, I was lucky. All my general managers, all my team were physically in one place.
Yeah.
And I know today, even my kids work on teams where the headquarters is in Tennessee and they're located in Colorado and people are spread out. I think you just have to be organized. You have to be very intentional about how you're communicating with your team, intentional about how you're building relationships with them. I love the hybrid model. I've seen so many companies say we're going to be all in the office or we're going to be all remote. And I think in life, most solutions are right in the middle. And I think a hybrid is a great way to approach it. So for my opinion is, if you're doing things remotely, that should be the time to be efficient and get things done. And when you can get your team together in one place, focus on the social aspects, focus on the discussions, focus on the interactions and building relationships, because relationships solve a lot of problems. And when you have a good relationship with your team and with your peers, it's easier to work in a hybrid manner and work remotely because you know them, you trust them, and that's usually the difference between teams that really do well and teams that have problems.
Yeah, and still on the leadership aspect, how to be a good leader for others, and how to lead yourself.
Yeah, so I think there's two things. Leading others, I think it's a balance between confidence and humility. And once again, everything in life is in the middle. I think you need to have the confidence as a leader to know, I'm in charge. I take responsibility for my team. I take responsibility for the results. I'll take responsibility for the failures and the successes. But you also have to have a certain amount of humility. I think a lot of executives think just because they got promoted and they got a certain title and they're making a certain amount of money, that makes them smarter. And it's not true. You really need to tap your team, and everyone needs to contribute. Because as I like to say, a leader isn't someone who does. A leader is someone that needs to make sure that things get done. And a lot of leaders think they need to be these perfect people. And when in fact, what I saw myself as a leader is coordinating a team of experts to work towards a goal. So I think that's important. I'm glad you brought up the lead yourself piece. That is such a non-priority of so many people. They sacrifice their health, they sacrifice their time, they sacrifice their families so they can get their jobs done. And I'm a huge believer that you need to lead yourself first. You need to take care of yourself physically, mentally. You need to organize your team, your time. And the more you can do that, the better boss you're going to be, the better employee, the better parent, the better son or daughter. And so I think that's a really important piece. And a lot of people get so busy they forget about that until it's too late. And they have regrets because their kids grew up and they haven't talked to them, or they have heart issues, or they're not in good health. And you have to balance. You have to balance work, family, and self, and figure out how to put that together. And it's not easy, but for me, it's key to, I think, having success in life.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, definitely. So recently, Disney entered in a kind of new market, the streaming market, and it's a battle, and it's doing good, and it's a battle with another giant such as Netflix, and it's having very good results. Mm-hmm. I'd like to hear from you your thoughts about this landscape, the landscape of streaming markets. Is there space for new companies? How's it going to be in the next years?
Yeah, I'll tell you, in my opinion, well, first of all, Bob Iger, when he took over the company decades ago, one of his big pillars was content. He knew that content was always going to be the difference between companies, because you can build new platforms. Technology can be copied, but content, that original content that really engages people, is going to always, in my opinion, be the most important thing. And so there's always going to be room for new companies, because that's the great thing about creativity and innovation. Once you get big enough, there's someone out there that's coming up with a new idea, with new content you haven't thought of. And when you're, sometimes success can be very dangerous because you're not as hungry. I know Jeff Bezos from Amazon, he built a monument in Seattle. And people said, what is this monument you built? He said, I built a monument for Amazon because I want people to remember our company when the next company that's being started in a garage right now knocks us off our pedestal, because there's always someone out there thinking of something else. But this content piece is so important for the theme parks and for streaming, because it makes that emotional connection. It makes people be able to escape reality. And that's the beauty of creativity and innovation. It's able to take you to another place. So we can talk all day long about streaming services and how good they are technically. For me, that's not the difference. It really comes down to content and knowing what your customers want.
Yeah, and talking about the content, so we are seeing an explosion of new content, every day, and content for everyone. Yeah. And how to keep the success of old characters, and like Mickey, for example, and like Disney characters, how to keep them alive and how to keep their magic alive.
Yeah, characters and content constantly needs to be evolving. Walt Disney had said, the theme parks are not a museum. He was always changing things. He was always trying new things. And it's the same with the characters. In fact, back when I was growing up, the princesses in Disney movies were always they're the ones that needed to be saved. And as mothers have gotten, new generation has come up, they don't want their daughters to have to rely on men to save them. They want them to be independent. And so now you see the new princesses that are highly independent. They're great role models. So I think as long as you keep connected with your customers, you keep connected with your employees, keep talking with them, you're going to move in the right direction. Sometimes you're going to move too fast, and sometimes you're going to move too slow. But status quo is not a strategy. Bob Iger used to say. So you always have to have a plan. You always have to be trying new things, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. But if you don't try new things, you're going to fail anyway. So you got to go for it.
So one last question. We are in the middle of an innovation conference.
Yes.
What are your three main outcomes, the three main things that you have learned at Disney that you think innovators in Brazil can apply to their companies?
Yeah, I think the first one is don't be so planful on where your company is going to go or what your goal is that you don't see all the things around you. Great innovation typically comes from two different concepts colliding with each other. And what a lot of innovators do, they stay focused and they put their blinders on and they don't see all the ideas around them. So I think being open to topics or subjects that maybe you haven't learned about before, there's always something to learn from areas outside your expertise that help you change what you're trying to do. I think secondly is you just have to have a discipline and grit to come in every day and keep trying. I've just seen so many people where they're on the verge of failure and they're about to quit, and all of a sudden something clicks and they just take off. And you never know how close you are to success. And for most people, it's right around the corner. And some people quit just before that success comes.
Yeah.
And the other thing I learned from my life and working at Disney, which was a really busy job, is enjoy the ride. Just take moments to look around and say, look what we're doing, look what we're creating. Enjoy other people and get to know them, and don't get caught up where 10 years flies by and you can't remember what happened. You got to be in the moment, and I think if you can enjoy these moments, not only will you not go crazy, but you're going to have some great memories of all the hard work you did along the way.
Dan, thank you so much.
My
thank
pleasure.
You so much. Guys, this was Daniel Cockerell. Stay with us for more at MIT Technology Review Brazil. Bye.